straight to the case of former hostage Joshua Boyle. And a shocking story yesterday. He's currently being held in police custody in Ottawa today. He will appear in court later today in connection with 15 criminal charges filed against him earlier this week. Charges relating to several incidents that are alleged to have taken place in the months since he and his family were rescued from terrorists in Pakistan last fall. A bail hearing is set for this morning. Global News has been told his mother is set to appear as well. 8 counts of assault, 2 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of uttering a death threat, 2 counts of unlawful confinement, 1 count of forcing an individual to ingest a noxious substance, this one a sleep-inducing antidepressant. Also 1 count of misleading a peace officer by trying to convince them that another individual was suicidal in order to divert suspicion from himself. Nothing's been proven, of course, and all the identities are protected by a publication ban. But his wife was talking to reporters yesterday, and her name, of course, Caitlin Coleman. She and her 3 young children live in Ottawa. And there were some suggestions that, well, this may have something to do with what the Boyle family went through. The rape of his wife, the murder of one of the couple's children, physical assaults. To talk about this, we've got a social worker waiting for us here on the morning show, and that would be Gary Dierenfeld. Gary, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, Mike. Happy New Year to the both of you.
We have no clue, obviously, because of the pub ban, who was involved in this, but let's talk about PTSD.
Yeah. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and what we're talking about here is people who have gone through horrific experiences where those horrific experiences continue to create distress on an ongoing basis. So, let's say you suffered a car crash. Let's say you were a hostage. Let's say you were subject to domestic violence. The incidents around those, or the situation around those stressful incidences, when we re-enter similar situations, we're reminded of what had transpired. And it's not just a reminder, hey, do you remember this? It's almost as if we're reliving those events. Mm. And in reliving those events, it alters our thinking, our emotions, and our behavior such that we are seeking to survive in the moment on an as-if basis. So let's say you hear a loud bang outside and it triggers the memory of gunfire. You're going to grab your family and hide under the bed. Now, let's say somebody else in your family, why are we running under the bed? It was a car backfiring. This person can be so locked in the moment and the triggered memory that they're going to fight with that person, get under the bed. Mm. So we don't know for sure what went on in the Boyle household.
No.
We don't know if indeed, and certainly it would be reasonable to expect that kind of post-traumatic stress disorder for all the persons that can emerge at different times through different triggers. But we also don't know what kind of man this fellow was before all this transpired. So, we do know from the news reports that his father-in-law wasn't happy with the decision to go to Afghanistan. We do know that Mr. Boyle, from news reports, had been married to the older sister of Omar Qatar. Mm-hmm. So this is a fellow who has had interesting life choices prior to his experiences in Afghanistan. So we don't know what we call the pre-morbid, the life before he may have a post-traumatic stress disorder was about, mm-hmm. and what kind of fellow this person is. And we also don't know how he was affected by his time in Afghanistan.
And as for his wife, Caitlin Coleman, I wouldn't say coming to his defense yesterday, Gary, but explaining to the media, you really don't have any clue what we went through. Some people, would they consider her to almost be under his spell? Because that's what a lot of people, lay people, are tweeting and posting on social media. Well, it's obvious that he's got some sort of control over her.
And again, we don't know for sure anything about that. Having said that, these aren't unreasonable hypotheses. I I'm stuttering, sorry. A hypothesis is a reasonable guess about what is going on. And it could be that part of the post-traumatic stress disorder is that she is caused to feel safe by him, where at the same time he may be the perpetrator of the kind of violence from which she needs rescue. So that we see that also in victims of domestic violence, where they are caused to at the same time feel protected by yet victimized by their partners.
Gary, last question for you here, but when something like this happens to someone and they come back, I would assume there is not only a psych eval that's done, but then after, some sort of intervention to help the family then cope. There's a lot of critics now saying that perhaps the government should have done more for this family. What's your take?
Well, I don't know what is done automatically or not, but, you can lead a horse to water. The horse has got to want to drink. This is a criticism that we have seen of the Canadian government with respect to our veterans, people who are coming back from serving our country. This is a criticism that we hear with respect to our first responders who are traumatized the result of dealing with horrific fires and crime scenes and the like. So we are still, as a country, coming to terms with the mental health aspects of post-traumatic stress disorder, destigmatizing around that, and seeking to provide more services in this area.
Gary, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Good to be with you, folks.
That's social worker Gary Derenfeld. I should mention as well, the last tweet from the family account was last Friday, addressing the recent deaths of dozens of members of the Haqqani network, which, of course, were their captors. And the quote was, "Our dead go to heaven. Their dead go to hell." So I think a lot of debriefing needs to be going on here. But this morning will be the bail hearing in an Ottawa court for Joshua Boyle.